Now, I would like to break this down to you with a chart. Here's the chart that we don't have that we need. If you were truly doing a thing called managing with data, which would be different than, say, managing with, I don't know, guessing, or managing with random chance. If you were going to manage with data, one of the things that you would need, and fact check me on this, if you're going to manage with data, you need data, right? Actual useful data. That would be sort of the minimum requirement for managing with data, to have data. Do we have it? Well, the question of when we open up comes down to the two curves, the COVID death curve, which we hope has already peaked and maybe is plateauing or lowering. And then what happens if you close the economy? Well, I would say that for the first several months, there isn't that much impact because it takes a while for any kind of a big shock to work its way through the system. But the longer you wait, this curve is going to start getting steep, and it might get steep kind of quickly. I don't know what quickly looks like, but it's going to happen. So there's nobody who disagrees that if you waited long enough, you'd have at least a risk of the economic downturn being way worse than the COVID deaths. Now, here's the question. Am I wrong that that's the only thing we need to know? Doesn't all of the data come to this point, which is, can we tell when is the crossover? Are we already there? Are we already past it and it's too late? Are we well before it and we can afford to wait a few more months? Who exactly knows the answer to that question? Because that's the only data that matters. Is that the right date? Are we there, near it, past it, or what? Let me summarize this in more earthy tones. Because sometimes all these complicated charts and graphs, well, they might not clear things up as much as you want. So sometimes you have to put it in clear language. So here's leadership by data, breaking it down. So the only data we need to know is that crossover. When's the best date to go back, all things considered? So that's the only thing we need to know. Also, the crossover date is the only thing we don't know. All right, so it's the only thing we need to know, and it is, correct me if I'm wrong, do some fact checking on here. It's the only thing we need to know, and coincidentally, it's the only thing we don't know. We don't know it even a little bit. We don't have a good idea. We don't have a guess. We don't have a model. We don't have anything that shows us both the coronavirus deaths and the economic deaths. We have bullshit idiots arguing in public like they've got some secret knowledge about where that crossover point is. You don't know. You don't know where the crossover point is. Nobody knows. So what do you do when you don't know? Well, you don't sit at the kids' table if you want to be in charge. You got to move to the adult table. At the adult table, we can say things like, we'd love to measure with data. We don't have any data that's useful. Well, we got lots of data. It's all useless. The only thing we need to know is when is that date that's the best time to go back to work. Now, it might differ by region, of course, but that's the basic idea. And we don't know that. Do you know why? Nobody's studying it. Have you seen a model that shows you the economic deaths on the same chart as the COVID deaths? No, you haven't seen that model. If you haven't seen that, it doesn't exist. All right? Just guessing. Do you want your government to just guess on your life? No, you don't. You don't. If somebody is going to guess about whether I live or die, that's going to be me. It's not going to be Dr. Fauci. It's not going to be Rand Paul, as much as I respect them both for their respective service. It's going to be me, right? Every time. I don't delegate that decision. They can do their decisions about what they want to do, but if I'm going to guess if I'm going to live or die, that's up to me. That's not up to anybody else. So here's the thing. Why do we let these pretend they're managing, leading, using data when nothing like that's happening? There's nothing like leadership with data that's happening. Of course, it makes sense to collect as much as you can and know as much as you can. But if the only thing you need to know is that crossover date, when to go back to work, and we don't know it, and we're not going to know it, and there's no way to know it, stop acting like this is some rational data. That's just not what's happening. So, what do you do when you don't know? You do what Rand Paul suggests, who apparently is the only rational person in the whole government. Because, it's not like I agree with him on everything he says, but when he says, here's something he said that I think was completely overlooked in the coverage. I saw it in the coverage, but it wasn't emphasized. Which he said that one of the reasons to let the individual locales make their own decisions is because nobody knows what the right decision is. So you diversify, just like a portfolio. If you don't know what stock to buy, you buy a bunch of stocks and you hope that the ones that go up compensate for the ones that go down because you don't know. Do you know why you don't buy, if you're a good investor and you're smart and you understand investing, do you know why you don't just go out and buy one stock? Because you don't know what's going to happen to one stock. Nobody does. I mean, you can think you do, but it's just guessing. If anybody could buy one stock and know it was going to go up, the entire financial model would be, the world would be upside down because nobody can do that. So let's, I'm sorry, I just get a little worked up here. So what Rand Paul says is that you should do the same risk management that you would do if it were a portfolio. Portfolio, you just buy a group of stocks and hope most of them go up. Rand Paul says, we don't know what to do with these school openings. Let each of the regions take a shot at it. Maybe we'll learn something. Maybe some will go too far. Some won't work. People will die. Kids will die. Children will die. And still, it's the adult decision. Because we don't know what to do, you might as well let people make decisions that are at least closer to their individual situations. You could maybe talk to your mayor, but you probably can't talk to your president or your governor. That'd be harder. So you got to push these life and death decisions, especially when it's children. I mean, come on. Do you want your government to decide what your children live or die? Now, I think some parents might have to say, I'm not going to send my kid. I mean, there might be some tough family decisions, but you got to push that decision down to the local level, I think, especially for the schools. So I am on Team Rand Paul 100%, but I would note that neither he nor Dr. Fauci know the right answer. But Rand Paul suggests a way that you move forward without the data. If you don't understand how brilliant that is, then you've missed the biggest story. The biggest story is that there's one person in the whole world who suggested how to move forward without sufficient data when all the other at the kids' table are saying, let's wait for some data. Let's not do something that's too soon and too dangerous. How many people have you seen saying, we don't want to do it too soon, but we don't want to do it wrong? Just stop saying that. It's just what everybody's thinking. You might as well say, I've got an idea today. Let's all breathe air. Has anybody thought about breathing air? It's all over and it looks like it's free. Let's breathe some air. And while we're out at it and breathing air, let's not go back to work in a dangerous way that's too reckless. Thanks for all the leadership. So Rand Paul gives us the answer, which is if you don't know what the right answer is, let people make decisions, diversify it. Some are going to be wrong, really wrong, and people are going to die. But that's the decision we have. You don't have to be a ghoul to know that's true because people die either way. We just got to try it. Rand Paul's right.